Okay, we are here with Colin Baker and Nicola Bryant, the sixth Doctor and Peri from Doctor Who. Very excited to have you here. Thank you so much for coming to join us online with SFS and giving up your time. How are you both? We'll speak to Colin first.
Well, considering I ought to be in Scarborough at this very minute with you, as well as can be expected in the circumstances. We all know the reasons why, and I'm hoping you'll invite us next year to make up for it.
Certainly, so yes.
But what a clever idea of yours to do this, to at least give us the chance to say to all the fans that we share your sadness and we wish we were there with them.
Thank you. And Nicola, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's quite life for me. I've been taking care of my mum for quite a while now, so we're lucky. We have garden space. You know, I have 2 dogs keeping me company, and our health is well. Well, my mum's just been through chemo, so we are seriously isolating, and we started at least about 2.5 weeks, nearly 3 weeks before they told us to here.
Wow, it's a long time to be locked up there.
It is. I've lost track now. What am I, week 5 or something, 6?
Yeah, absolutely. Lovely. Right then, so a few questions about Star Trek. Now, Star Trek, Doctor Who. I've got Star Trek later on. First of all, let's talk about, before we go right into Doctor Who, I'd like to ask, what was it that actually set you on the career path of becoming an actor? And we'll ask Nicola first, what was it that made you go down that route?
Mostly my ballet career being stomped on.
Oh, right, okay.
I wanted to be a prima ballerina. That was my, I'd like to be Margot Fontaine. That was my childhood dream. All the ballet annuals. And essentially, I was not the healthiest of kids. I had asthma. My family didn't want me to go. It's quite dusty ballet school. And in the end, they said no. So I was gutted. So then my mum tried to get me to do other forms of dance, which I thought was appalling. But eventually she got me to join an amateur dramatic society who were doing Fiddler on the Roof. And you had to be 18 to join. And I was 13. So my mum was like, if you think you can act, then act. So I had to act 18, and I got the role of the second youngest daughter. And the youngest daughter was played by a much older person than me. I think she was 21. She played the youngest daughter, and I loved it. I only had like 3 lines. But what I really loved was the filling the gaps, because I was on stage most of the time as one of the children. And I loved the whole story that you could bring to it yourself. And I was hooked on the idea of becoming an actor.
And that was it, straight down onto
Pretty much.
And Colin, what about you, please?
Yeah, mine started at school. I went to an all-boys school in Manchester where they did every year a Gilbert and Sullivan opera. And I found myself at the age of 12 playing Phyllis in Iolanthe, which is the lead soprano. And the review in my school magazine said, Colin Baker threw himself with great verve into the part of Phyllis and rarely strayed more than half an octave from the note. And at the time I thought that was a really good review. It's only when I discovered years later what an octave was that I realised that there was perhaps an implied criticism. And I found it was something I could do. I was a shy lad, on the receiving end of being bullied, and suddenly I could be somebody else, and people seemed to like it. So every year I took part in the Gilbert and Sullivan, and when I left school I thought that was it. And I went with my mother, similarly loved the theatre, to see an amateur production of The King and I at the Palace Theatre in Manchester. And at the end of it I said, I'd love to do something like that. And the man sitting in front turned around and said, did you mean that, young man? And I said, yes. He said, I am the president of the North Manchester Amateur Operatic and Dramatic Society. Why don't you come along next Friday to the rehearsals we're doing South Pacific next year, and you could be in it. And I did, and I was, and I joined every amateur drama group. I'd never even heard of amateur drama till that moment. And it went from there, really. A long, slippery downhill with a few uphills.
I see. Lovely. Right, Colin, can I also ask, did you always want to play the Doctor, or at the time was it a case of Doctor Who's a job, I'm going to audition for this, or did you always want that role at some point?
Well, I never thought about it as possibly you don't, any more than I suppose, or perhaps Pierce Brosnan did think one day I want to be James Bond, but I do remember my agent phoning me to offer me say I'd been offered the part of Maxil, who was the guard in Arc of Infinity.
Of course, yeah.
And I said, oh dear, it's 3 episodes, good money, fits in with what you're doing, I think you should do it. And I said, oh dear, that means I'll never be the Doctor. I said, what do you mean? I said, well, I read somewhere that when they cast the Doctor, they always insisted it was someone who hadn't been in the show before. And my agent, my then agent, said, well, they're not going to cast you as Doctor Who, are they? I said, no, you're probably right. So I turned up to play Maxil, as a result of which I met John Nathan Turner, and we got on incredibly well and laughed a lot. And a couple of years later, he offered me the part of the Doctor. So you never can tell, can you?
Nicola, can I ask then, how did you get the part of Doctor Who? Obviously, in auditions, but what led you down that role?
Well, I was led by William Hartnell's son-in-law.
Okay.
Who had seen me in a production of Nona Nanette at drama school. And we were doing the American score, and he just made a note, one American.
Right.
And he thought everyone else was British doing accents, but he thought I was a genuine American, so he'd made a note of that. And then, of course, the audition information, the casting information came across his desk, and he thought, oh, I've seen someone who's just right for that. Now, what's really interesting is that he thought that, even though the description was tall, blonde Californian,
okay.
which is not my look. But he said, no, I think, judging by how they described the character, I think this is a part that would be just perfect for you. So he got me the audition. But of course, I had, meanwhile, to explain to him that I wasn't American. And he said, oh dear, they're only auditioning Americans and Canadians. So, well, just go in, give it a go.
Fantastic. Now, we've got the two ladies waiting to come and have a chat with you. It seems that all the people wanting to speak to you are the same age as me. We all watched you when we were, in Doctor Who, watching Doctor Who when we were about 8 years old. I know I started watching in 1981 and finished in 1989. So you were right in the middle of my love of Doctor Who. And we've got, first of all, coming online is Laura, who would like to ask a couple of questions if she's here. Laura, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Oh,
waiting for you to pop on.
You want me to turn myself around? So I look. What's that?
Oh, there we go. Wonderful.
Oh, that works.
Better?
So we have Laura in her cosplay as Peri, and you've got a question for both of our stars.
Well done.
Thank you.
You look great.
Sorry?
You look great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. So I've got a question that's for both of you. So say you had a way of going back in time to see the version of you that's just starting on the show. What advice would you give to that version of you that's just starting with the knowledge that you know now?
I think I'd say a lot of things. I'd say don't make friends with the script editor because he'll let you down. I'd say stand up for yourself a bit more. I'd say be even nicer to Nicola.
Impossible.
I'd say, to be honest, I wouldn't say that much because looking back on it, I enjoyed it more than I had any right to do. I realised it was the best job I'd ever had, and I was determined to make it a pleasant atmosphere to work in. And I think I did that. So I think what I would say is just carry on doing what you're doing, and towards the end you might get disappointed, but to hell with it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair answer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nicola, what about yourself?
I pretty much agree with Colin. I mean, especially because it was my first job, I was so excited. I had a wonderful time for 3 years, and then I've spent the rest of my career trying to find that same enjoyment again.
Right.
It's nothing that's really kind of matched up to the fun of that, and having 3 years to play and grow in Doctor Who was fantastic. But I suppose if there was one little tip I would give myself, it would be take more pictures, because you didn't. And the photographers who took them, there were some pretty bad ones. And sitting on my wall right behind me, I have the spaceship from Planet of Fire, which was Turlough's spaceship, which was filmed for the crash. And as I was leaving the studio when we'd finished Planet of Fire, I saw it sitting in a dustbin. And I thought, knowing nothing, because I was really the personification of naive when I started. And I just thought, is that a storage container or is it a proper dustbin? So I went into the special effects back area, and I just I spoke with a couple of people and said, "Are you throwing that away? Yes. Are you throwing that away? Yes. Can I take it if you're throwing it away? Am I allowed to do that?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure. Help yourself. Anything you want." And so in all my time there, I took one thing, and I my first story that. I mean, occasionally the odd little bit falls off it and I have to try and glue it back into place. But I love having it. There's not a price on it. It's not for sale. It's just wonderful to have those little mementos. And I wish I'd raided a few more dustbins.
Yes, I'll join in on that one. I wish I thought of emptying every dustbin there was.
Yeah.
It was just through these hard times at the moment. If I had a few darlings in a dustbin.
Yeah.
Thank you ever so much for your question, Laura. We're going to go over to Gemma now. We'll say goodbye to Laura. You can watch us back online tomorrow, and we will chat again, I'm sure.
All right.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye, lovely. Bye.